I'm Tony Esselin.
And I'm Amy Bernard.
And we are here to help make it make sense.
This is the podcast that takes complicated science and breaks it down into easy to understand language.
So buckle up, buttercups. You are in for a bumpy ride.
All right, we're back.
All right, so now we're going to go from our broad understanding of misconceptions and misunderstandings and misinformation and disinformation, and then also knowing how to deconstruct information by asking, based on what?
That's right, based
we are
on
going
what?
to talk. Yes.
BOW. Maybe we should have like a sticker, bow, based on what?
Based on what? We are going to go into actual questions that folks have come to us. So we addressed snake venom. So that was in the first episode of our Based on What series here. But now we're going to talk about other things that have come up that continue to be concerning for folks who are looking at vaccination. And so we wanted to start off with pregnancy, because that's the big one, is pregnancy. A lot of folks are scared to get vaccinated when they're pregnant. They don't know what the effects are going to be. And so we wanted to go through some of those questions. Did you want to start with one, or let me see?
I had found a bunch of questions that were like COVID vaccine kind of questions and misinformation, not necessarily pregnancy related. I think the first one, it's related, but some people had asked if the COVID vaccines caused infertility. And which I think in the beginning was a very important question, because there are a lot of people who would obviously be getting the vaccine who might want to have children in the future, might be trying to get pregnant at that time, or maybe wanting to have kids down the road. So, I think that was a fabulous question. And what we now know through studying millions of vaccinated individuals is that it does not cause infertility. The vaccine is safe, that thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have become pregnant after having the COVID series of vaccines. Women have become pregnant, men have impregnated those women, so it doesn't seem to affect the egg or the sperm. And I think that we can now safely say that the COVID vaccines do not cause infertility. It's not a concern. But in the beginning, until we had a lot of data under our belts, I think we weren't sure, but I think now we can say that with it's accurate to say that the COVID vaccines do not cause infertility. Is that your
yeah,
take?
That's right. What we looked at, and the way that we're able to sort this out, is basically by looking at what is the rate of infertility in general, and then you look at folks who are infertile after they've gotten vaccinated, right? That's one easy way to figure it out. And what they've shown is that there's no difference. There's no difference between those folks who have gotten vaccinated and infertility rates, and those folks who have not gotten vaccinated and infertility rates. So if the vaccine was related to causing infertility, then infertility should be higher in folks that have gotten vaccinated. That's the way to look at that. And we have not been able to demonstrate that.
Yep. And plenty of pregnancies post-vaccine.
Plenty of pregnancies post-vaccine. Remember, in one of our early episodes, we talked about this, where we said folks in the clinical trials for vaccines were pregnant, got pregnant.
Yep.
And so those folks were followed, and they found that the rates of complications, prematurity, all of those things were no different in folks that had gotten vaccinated versus folks that had gotten had not gotten vaccinated.
Yep,
So
exactly.
we want you to feel good that it does not cause that. You shouldn't wait. If you're trying to go, if you're trying to have a child and you're trying to, grow your family,
Yep.
There's no reason to wait until after to get vaccinated. Like, if anything, we encourage you to do it before. That's the best time to do it.
Yeah. I would also, another question, I think, and this was something that you had sent, so maybe you'll talk about this a little bit more. Some information you had sent was, people were asking, well, if I am pregnant, should I get the COVID vaccine? Or I have heard that I should not get the COVID vaccine. And what I have read is that we are recommending the COVID vaccines for women who are pregnant, that they're safe and effective in women that are pregnant. And further, what you do when you get vaccinated against COVID while you're pregnant is the antibodies, those proteins that you make that fight the virus, pass on to your baby, from mom to child in utero. And that those antibodies will stay on board and protect the baby. So it's and we've talked about this before, it's your first way to be a mama bear. It's your first way to protect your baby is by getting some vaccine, the recommended vaccines on board. So the recommendation is to get vaccinated with COVID, and then there are a handful of others during pregnancy. Now, not all are recommended for pregnancy, but certainly the COVID vaccine is safe and effective for pregnancy. And would you double down on that as a med peds doc?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're not. Give me the phone. Hold on one second.
Apparently, the phone has been taken away. Oh my. Quite.
He was good for 20 minutes, so now he feels like he needs to be bad. All right, you want to be a part of the podcast?
I think you should. Yeah, you can be part of the podcast.
So, yes, I would double down. Yes, yep. I think that what's the most scary thing. I know, trying to change it.
Yeah, I'm guessing that having our four-year-old podcaster at may not be the most efficient use of the podcast time. We're going to be on intermission here. So yeah, I think we can say it's safe to have the COVID vaccines during pregnancy. They do not cause infertility. Another question that I've received related to that and the COVID vaccines would be, does the COVID vaccine affect a woman's menstrual cycle? And I would, from what I've read, that women's menstrual cycles are not affected overall by COVID vaccines. Now, some women might see like a slight difference in like 1 or 2 months of their period. And that's because our immune system, when it gets revved up, sometimes wreaks a little havoc. This is my version of child right now. My French bulldog has joined in. But yeah, so we're finding that it does not really affect the menstrual cycle. If at all, it might be just by like a day or two, and that would be just maybe the month that you've received the vaccine. But Tony, Dr. Tony, is that your take on? I just thought I'd answer one more question while our
Sure.
4-year-old podcaster
was trying to organize my 4-year-old podcaster. Yeah. Yes, all of those things. I think that, to go back to the pregnancy thing really quickly to address that issue is that there are, the consequences of getting COVID infection in a pregnant person is way more frightening than the vaccine. There haven't been any adverse events from what I understand of pregnant women. If anything, we're protecting your life. Because women who are pregnant who get COVID have a way rougher time, and they get very sick. And there is a mortality rate with that.
Right.
There are fatalities that have happened to pregnant women who have gotten COVID. So it's just,
Right.
it's scarier. You don't want to get sick when you're pregnant anyway, because your body is being split, right, into taking care of you and taking care of a growing human, you know?
Right.
That's just,
we also know that the immune system during pregnancy is kind of dampened or doesn't work as well because your immune system is trying really hard not to destroy the foreign thing that's growing in you. So your immune system is just is weaker during pregnancy, and that's one of the reasons why if you were to become pregnant and then become infected with COVID, that could cause, you know, much more serious harm and disease because your immune system is not completely you know, it's just not working as well on purpose during pregnancy.
That's right. And we talked about that a lot in our last episode. So and then in terms of the menstrual dysregulation, again, it happens like perhaps in the next couple of cycles, and then everything regulates is what I've
I've heard it doesn't happen to everybody, and when it does, it's pretty minor, and it's not for long term. So
that's right. So the other questions that came up again were about safety in breastfeeding. There are no adverse effects from what I understand, what I've looked at.
Yeah.
There are no adverse effects of breastfeeding and getting vaccinated. And if anything, if you get vaccinated, you have antibodies that will go through your breast milk and actually protect your baby from getting COVID. So it's actually a good thing. It's the opposite. it's a good thing to get vaccinated and breastfeed. That's awesome. That's like great. You're actually helping your baby out.
Another mama bear step.
Yeah, the vaccine's not available for newborns, so that's the best way to protect your newborn.
Right, exactly.
Was that? Let me make sure those are all the pregnancy questions. Hold on.
Yeah, I think that might have been.
It was
I think those were all the kind of
pregnancy status,
fertility.
Unsafe for women who are breastfeeding. We just talked about that. Causing infertility. We just talked about that. Pregnant women should not get the COVID vaccine. We just talked about that.
Yep.
So I think those are it with pregnancy related.
Yeah.
Let me see. What else? Where else did you want? You talked about we talked about fertility. We talked about pregnancy. What else?
So some other kind of common questions or misconceptions with the COVID vaccines would I get this one a lot, less now, but very much in the beginning was, will the COVID vaccine alter my DNA?
Oh, that's one I got a lot too. Yes.
The answer is no. So the
based on what?
Yeah, exactly. So based on cellular biology, I will break it down.
Yeah.
So the way that the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines are mRNA based. mRNA is something that we call message, and our cells, every single cell in our body uses it to make proteins. And in the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, the message that's given to us in the shot is a message for our cells to make the spike protein for the SARS-CoV-2 virus, to then rev up our immune system against the spike protein. So the message that's in the vaccine, it does go into our cells. It's used by our cells to make that spike protein, but it doesn't affect the DNA. It doesn't go into the center of the cell, which is called the nucleus. And that's where the DNA lives. So the message doesn't go there. It doesn't even go into that center kind of, instruction genetic hub of the cell. So it does not alter our DNA. It doesn't go there. It stays kind of like in this outer, we could call it the suburbs of the center, like this, maybe the nucleus of the cell, the center where all the DNA lives. That's like, we'll say that's the city. And the places around that would be the suburbs. That's where the message stays. So they don't mix. It doesn't go into the city. It doesn't mess with the instructions, right? So it stays outside. So no, it does not alter our DNA. Does that sound okay?
I mean, straight from the scientist's mouth. I mean,
I was in my head, I'm drawing you all a picture.
That's right. That's right. That's really, I thought that was that's a great explanation. I can co-sign because I was in the lab across.
That's right. You are also an immunologist. I just happen to like live, breathe, and eat this every day.
That's correct. That's correct.
You do that, but also with patience.
That's right. That's right. But I think it's important to know that what she's saying is based on her life's work, right? This is what it's based on.
Another I think misconception is that people were asking me, well, wouldn't it just be better to get COVID out in the wild? Like, wouldn't that provide better protection?
Yes, that's a good one.
I would say no, it's not going to provide better protection. Like Dr. Tony has mentioned, some people that get the vaccine can get a reinfection with COVID. It's going to be much less severe, or can get infected with COVID. It's going to be much less severe than if you don't have the vaccine on board. But we also find that people who have become sick with COVID can get reinfected. What we know about the vaccine is it prevents death and serious injury. So it's that seatbelt. You're putting on the seatbelt. The other thing I would say is when you get what?
Say something about natural infection. Let me just say, I want to say something about that because I think that's really important. If getting naturally infected was better, we wouldn't bother.
Right.
We just wouldn't bother. Like honestly, nobody wants to go through this and have to go. There's plenty of other conditions that would be able to make people rich. Right. Where if it was easier to just get the natural infection, isn't it better to just, we don't have, if it was better for us to get naturally infected.
Right, we would. We just say, go ahead and do
it. Onesimus, remember him?
Yeah.
From the early 1700s, who came, enslaved in the New World, if you will. Yep. Wouldn't have had in his entire community, talk about his entire community trying to protect themselves from smallpox by rubbing it in to their skin to protect themselves. If it was because that's not natural either. Yeah. That's trying to protect themselves from natural infection. So I think I agree.
I mean, honestly, like I agree with that. And I'm gonna go a step further. You know what? If natural infection was better, why don't we go off and cure autoimmunity or something else? Like we wouldn't spend our time making vaccines if they didn't provide superior protection and be better for us overall in our health. We have a lot of other things we could do. Like there are so many other things. And then
there's so many things we could focus on.
So many other things. And then what I wanted to say too is if you compare the vaccine to getting the infection, unvaccinated infection versus vaccinated, the unvaccinated, you are not.
This episode is going to be called Fur Babies and Babies.
Fur Babies and Babies. Somebody's walking by. The nerve. So natural infection, you're not guaranteed you're going to live through that. You're not guaranteed you're not going to have serious harm. Just because you get infected doesn't mean that you're going to have a cold and a week later you're going to be fine. There's long COVID. People are suffering for long periods of time. There are 1 million people in this country who have died. Those people didn't make it out. Vaccine definitely would be better for them. Absolutely. They probably would still be with us because we know the vaccine prevents death in most cases and serious harm.
That's right. So, that's right. And there were countries, remember, when all of these vaccines were being rolled out, that were desperate to get their hands on these vaccines, and we weren't equitably distributing them. Right. And so again, whenever you're worried about, one of the things that I use for my work is that if other countries that are less fortunate and less that have less resources are like, oh my God, when are we going to get it? Then most of the time, like none of those countries are asking for things that are going to harm their people. For the most part, they're asking for access and for equal access, and to be able to get their hands on it, to protect their communities as well. And so I think it's just important to say,
yeah, and that's one of the things that just drives me crazy about, we have so many people in the United States that have access to the vaccine that are refusing it. And if the world were fair and we could transport things like within seconds, Hey there. How are you? I'm recording a podcast, actually. Oh. Okay. Okay.
We're gonna be able
babies, husbands, and fur babies.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
But if we could transport them, like, to the countries that needed them, I would say, great. It breaks my heart that there are people in this world that do not have access, that want it more than anything. And then we have people in our country here that are like, meh.
Right. Hold on one second.
Okay, another question that that's common misconception. People ask me, if you get the vaccine, don't the vaccines cause variants to pop up?
Oh, that's a good one.
No, absolutely not. You know what causes variants? The infection going from person to person to person. The more, I think I've called us human kindling, the more unvaccinated kindling we have, the more people that get infected, the more chance and opportunity for the virus to mutate and to make more variants occur. If we would have all gotten vaccinated, assuming equity across the globe, on one day, would we have all these variants? No. Would the virus have stopped spreading? Most likely. Right?
That's right.
So no, vaccines do not cause variants. Infection, and the chance for mutation is what causes variants.
Right. And I think that that's some of the propaganda coming from the anti-vax world, that the vaccines are causing mutations.
Yeah.
And they're using what we're saying about vaccines wanting to survive to fuel that. And what we're saying is that as long as it's circulating, they're going to mutate.
Right. But yeah, viruses. You said vaccines, but viruses want to survive. Like viruses' main goal is to survive. Humans' main goal is to survive.
Survival. So we're all, we're all fighting for survival. What I have one that's interesting. Ingredients are dangerous.
Yeah. So which ones? Based on what and which ones?
Well, that's one. All I have is ingredients are dangerous.
So I think, different vaccines have different ingredients. But like, as an example, let's talk about the mRNA, the COVID vaccines, because that's what we're talking about in general. Message. So messenger RNA, or the message. Again, that's like the instruction that our cells use to make protein every day, all day long. So we're putting message for spike protein in the vaccine. That's what we get, injected. Our cells see message every day, all day long. But to make other things like insulin, or, it's a protein our body makes. Like our bodies make proteins every day, all day long, and they use message to do that. So that's not dangerous because our body uses message every day. And then and I can see the picture in my head. I'm making a circle with my finger here. The shell, what surrounds that message, is actually just like a fat-based shell, which we all know everyone has. Is fat dangerous? In some cases. But here, depends on how much you have. But so this is just like a lipid bilayer, which is just like kind of like a fat or kind of greasy outer layer that surrounds that message. That's really all that it's composed of. So no, nothing dangerous in the mRNA, the COVID vaccines.
What about that nanotech?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there was I have to tell you, I have never actually seen like a microchip, but I do believe that it would not fit through the needle that the hypodermic needle that we would that goes into our skin. So no nanotechnology, no microchips, nothing like that in the vaccine. I know I've had my pets microchipped. Those things are not that small.
They're not that small. That's
They
true.
use the gauge needle that they use for that. Those things are, it's pretty big. It's much bigger.
That's true. That's true. And then honestly, the tracking, I think we talked about this a little bit, but the tracking of your movement, I mean, it's happening on your phone. Like, everybody's being tracked, but it's not through the vaccine, it's through these things.
Right, right.
So
this is, yeah, this is awesome.
so, yeah.
We use that technology with our teenagers.
That's right. That's right. You gotta find out where
it's
they are.
The phone. It's the phone.
It's
yeah.
the phone. So I think you should be more afraid of that than
yeah, I agree 100%. Like, I don't, this is like a little bit of a tangent, but honestly, there have been times where I've said something where only my phone is present. And I swear to you, when I go onto my computer the next time, what I just talked about like pops up on my computer.
I know.
And I'm like, oh my God.
I know.
It's totally my phone. It's
totally my phone. It's totally my phone.
I would like to win the lottery. What are the winning numbers for the next lottery, please? Make it a Powerball. You think that's going to pop up on my computer next? The Powerball? Wouldn't that be awesome?
That probably might happen. Okay. We talked about that. Oh, the magnetic one. I think I might have shared the magnetic one was that I made myself part of this experiment and I got an MRI after I got vaccinated, mostly because I had a problem because I'm an old lady. And so I got this problem with my shoulder. But I was like, okay, if this is so magnetic, I'm going to like be in the middle of this machine. I'm going to be attached to the machine. And I did not move.
Yeah, because MRI is magnetic resonance imaging. So just people know what that means.
Yes, so MRI is a magnetic, it's a big magnet that actually helps you, visualize through technology, through waves, basically parts of your body. And so if this was a magnetized vaccine, I would have been, there's no way, like you're not even able to wear earrings or a ring or any of that stuff when you go into an MRI. I would have been attached. They would have had to pull me off. Anybody see Terminator? Like there's one, I think it's the third one where they use an MRI machine and he gets sucked into it.
I do not remember that.
That would have been me, and it didn't happen to me.
So did you see the testimony of the person who was claiming that she had been magnetized and she you gotta watch it. She like puts it, she was, in front of, I don't know, health board or whatever. I can't even remember. Because, we watch so many of these interesting videos. Just like, it's made me magnetic. My keys are sticking to my body all the time. So she puts the key on her neck. It goes, oh, then she puts it on her neck. And it was like, if your whole body is magnetized, it would stick to your hand.
That's right. That's right.
You couldn't get it off. It's like, it's not just, anyways, it was just like, So no, that was evidence of no magnetism.
No magnetism.
And also it has to be a different chemical element than what's in keys, but whatever.
That's right. Based on what? That's what we want you to learn today.
I think I'm out of questions. What do you have? Anything?
Oh, I have more. COVID vaccines are injecting things that will manifest themselves as diseases later on in life, and you won't be able to trace it back to the vaccine itself. That's a good one.
That is good.
So the thing is that diseases, that's a tough one to prove, because you're saying that you will never be able to track it back to the vaccine itself. I'm going to say that that's a question that's full of fear, right? There's a lot of fear in that question.
Yeah.
I think that what I would say is that, I have patients who are like deathly afraid of getting cancer, for example.
Yeah.
They worry about that all the time, all the time, all the time. And one of the things that I say to them is that, listen, today you are fine.
Right.
But I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future. And unfortunately, because you're so hyper aware of it, if God forbid you get cancer,
right,
you're going to be like, see, Dr. Tony, I told you.
Right.
And so the thing is that we cannot predict what's going to happen in the future. I can say that whatever's in the vaccines are things that we've been using for, I don't know, decades. Let me say decades, right?
Right.
And there's been nothing ever that has been a disease as a result of a vaccine that was given 50 years ago.
Right. I think we can use,
40 years
we can use the history of other vaccines that have used, a lot of the same tried and evidence-based, safe and effective ingredients. Nothing.
Right. So, I mean, I think that there are a lot of things that we are learning about in the world that are causing diseases later on in life. I just listened to a podcast yesterday, actually, that talked about pollution and how pollution caused the death of a child.
I listened to that one, that little girl in the UK.
Yeah, that little girl in the UK, and
severe asthma.
And she had severe asthma, and they didn't know what it was, and it turned out to be pollution. And so there are a lot of things going on, that can cause diseases later on in life. And the more we learn about it, the more awareness we have about them. But what we can say is that based on the ingredient list that we've looked at, I've looked at, there's nothing there that's going to actually cause a disease. And you can't just have you can't just inject things into medications and give it to people.
Right.
On a mass scale. Like, it's just, if it happened, it happens in batches, right? It happens in batches, and we can trace back, like, if something sinister happened, that they did that with Tylenol back in the day when I was growing up. There was like a batch of Tylenol that was contaminated, and they were able to trace it back. Like, it doesn't happen like through everything. It happens with a batch. You can trace it back to the batch. They usually shut it down at that point, and then everything is
right.
I
would also further that with the, the one different thing for these vaccines is the mRNA, or the message that's used, the messenger of the spike protein, right? But what we do know about mRNA, like I just mentioned, is that the cells of our body use message every day, all day long, to make proteins we need in our body to survive. And what we know about message, we as scientists know, it doesn't last very long. In our cells, it lasts like sometimes just a couple of minutes. It's degraded. It's broken down and destroyed very quickly, because our body's like, oh, I've already used that. I'm getting rid of it. I've made a bunch of protein. I don't need any more. I'm getting rid of it. So message, if you look at the data from the clinical trials, the message in the vaccine is gone within a day. I think I mentioned this before, how it's like a Snapchat message. It goes away within 24 hours. So that is very short-lived.
Yep. Seconds. It's actually like, if you don't even handle it correctly, it degrades in your hand.
Yeah. That was my big concern with these was, oh my God, message is destroyed immediately. It won't last long enough.
Yeah.
It's not going to last long enough.
Exactly. Okay.
And all right. I only have a couple more minutes.
Yeah. We only have a couple more questions. Hold on.
Okay,
good. Hidden form of population control.
That sounds like COVID by itself, sadly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that, I think that this is related back to the fertility thing. And people worrying about infertility. I think it's one and the same. So I would take us back to the fact that it does not affect fertility. And that the population control piece is happening from people dying of COVID, not really, nobody's really dying from vaccination. And then the last question, I think that's the last question. Let me make sure, because there was a bunch of them here. Oh, there's two more. One is that the vaccines can actually make you sick with COVID.
No.
So what the reason we're saying no is because, again, it's the immune response, right? It's the immune response that we are inciting, that we are basically priming your immune response, that activated, trained, educated, whatever word you want to use. But it's not that I've gotten this a lot with the flu shot too. Like, I got the flu shot and it gave me the flu.
I get that too.
No, that's not what happened. What you did was that you might have caught the flu because you got the shot, you didn't get the shot in time for you to fight the flu. So you might have actually just gotten the flu. Right. Or if you did take it on time, you are reacting. Your immune system is actually being like, oh, we're getting ready to fight the flu, y'all. Let's get ready. It's about to be a party up in here, about to fight the flu. So that's what's happening to your body, right? And also, there are, if you get the flu after you've gotten the flu shot, but it's been a while, maybe you just got the flu and it didn't, it wasn't that effective for you. So those are the things that the vaccines do not give you the sickness. That's just that's a mistake, and that's not happening. If you're like, oh, but I know what happened to me, then I can explain what what happened.
Well, the other thing, the other thing too with this, these mRNA vaccines and the J&J vaccine, which is the DNA vector, they don't have the virus in them. The virus is a much bigger thing that has instructions on how to make more virus. Right. These vaccines have none of that.
That's right.
All of the parts, it'd be like if I were to take, like, just my finger, the rest of my body is missing. That essentially it's this much of the virus that's, the message that's in there, and the rest is gone. We took it out. It's
That's right. So it's not, these vaccines do not cause the like they can't just they don't create the bug. Nope. They don't do that.
Nope.
And then the last one, which I think is great, because it's something I try to fight all the time, but totally unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary, and just another way for capitalism to keep winning.
Ooh, this goes back to your cab ride.
This is my cab ride. That's right. So just to remind folks, a few months ago, I had a cab ride. I was visiting California, and I went to go, hold on a second. I went to California, and I had a Lyft ride, and had a great conversation with the cab driver, and basically was talking about the fact that, mandates were tyranny, and that, we're going down a slippery slope, and this is how the Holocaust happened. Whoa. And it was an incredible conversation. And so, like, I was chipping away, and I got to the point where I was just like, so wait a minute. So tyranny is more frightening to you. The prospect of tyranny is more frightening than the fact that COVID has killed people in your life. And he said, yes. Whoa. He said the answer was yes. So at that point, there's nothing we're not going to be able to, you've decided that this is how what you've decided. What I will say is that capitalism is always winning. This is America. I'm sorry. Capitalism is always winning. Yeah. They don't need the vaccine for capitalism to win. I mean, Elon Musk just bought Twitter. He just bought Twitter. Who did that? Who does that? In cash.
It was only 44 billion. It was no big deal.
I mean, whatever. So, I mean, I hear you, and there are better ways for capitalism to win besides using this vaccine. I mean,
yeah,
it's just better ways,
It's kind of a non-starter, but I'm glad that you took it on.
well, I mean, I take it all on. I'm like, I want to hear all of it. And again, I think we're doing this for folks who are genuinely confused,
Right.
not for folks who just want to argue for the sake of arguing or have already made up their minds. Like this isn't for you. We're not going to help you, right? Like that, we get that.
We'd like to, but we can't.
We'd like to, but we're not going to be able to touch those folks. But the ones that we do, like the ones who are like, I genuinely want to do the right thing for my kids. I genuinely want to do the right thing for my family. I'm totally lost. I'm so lost. I'm getting these videos. They're really confusing. They're from people I respect. Like these videos and these articles are from people I love and respect. And I don't think that they would do any harm to me. And so that's what we're here for. We're here to like, let's deconstruct that. Let's see what they're talking about. You know, at this point in the pandemic, there have been so many people who've been vaccinated, that again, when we did this last month, it was 11.3 billion doses had been doled out. That's enough for you to know, like the people are dropping left and right from getting infected by COVID, not by getting vaccinated. So that's the way we want to say.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I think we tackled all the questions for this one.
I think we did. And
we need more. Keep them coming.
Yeah, definitely. Please keep them coming. And we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. All right.